Hey everybody, welcome to the Morning Devo with Bo O, and it is good to be your host this morning. It is August 4th, and I'm going to be in the book of Job, chapter 20 and 21 today. So I'm going to actually do two chapters today. It's Friday, that way we kind of go into the weekend, kind of getting a flow of the book too, and that's half the fun of doing a devotion, is kind of getting the flow of how these books kind of go. There's so many things you learn when you just get the flow of the book, and as we go through the Bible, the way we start understanding God, how God works, is all kind of weaved into the books of the Bible. And so just to take a section of a book and kind of extrapolate that at the expense of understanding the entire book can really, you really could be missing out on quite a bit. So we're going to go through these two chapters. Hopefully you kind of see Zophar's answer to Job, one of his buddies again, and then we'll see Job's seventh speech, what he says in response. So it's a little bit, it's not too long, and you'll see it's kind of similar in what we've already gone through quite a bit. So it says, then Zophar the Naamathite replied. And so these are back and forth. It seems like these things are just going back and forth. I must reply because I am greatly disturbed. I've had to endure your insults, but now my spirit prompts me to reply. I find it fascinating how in the book of Job, like Job will say something and then one of his friends will respond and be kind of offended at how Job's talking, and then Job will respond in an offense to what that friend's saying, and then another friend speaks up and then he's offended at what Job just said, and then Job will speak up and be offended now at that friend. And it's really crazy how sometimes we can just not get along at all, and that it seems like every time you're with someone, you know, you're finding an offense to what they're saying, and they're finding an offense to what you're saying. And man, this can be really challenging. And it certainly is in this book, because no one is going to really be quiet. We get the idea that Job just won't stop talking, and we get the idea that his friends aren't going to stop talking as well. Maybe the best response would have been not to say anything. But that's usually not what happens with us. You know, do I have good discernment to know when just to stop talking? I've had to endure your insults. Don't you realize that from the beginning of time, ever since people were first placed on the earth, the triumph of the wicked has been short-lived? Don't you know the wicked have been judged all the way when people were first placed on the earth? Hey, do I think this morning that God has created us? We have been placed on the earth. Interesting, huh? Placed, positioned. You know, purpose is all wrapped up in that idea. Do I really believe God has a purpose? You know, he has me in this place, and there's things I need to learn in it, and things I can learn and trust, right? Faith. Trust that God's gonna help me out. It says, and the joy of the godless has been only temporary, short-lived, passing pleasures, right? The joy of, it sounds so right again. You know, Zophar seems like he's right on the mark, man. You know, hey, passing pleasure is sin, bro. Don't you know that? You know? Gosh, I mean, the joy of the godless has been only temporary. There's joy in godlessness, but it's only temporary, Job. You know, again, it's good stuff, right? But it's just not the right context. Though the pride of the godless reaches to the heavens, and their heads touches the clouds, yet they will vanish forever, thrown away like their own dung. Ooh, Zophar's getting a little hardcore here with his words. You're going to be tossed away like a pile of yuck. I mean, that's pretty hardcore language, right? That's pretty intense. If you're in a conversation and you say with someone, hey man, the wicked are going to vanish, they're going to be wiped out, and they'll be thrown away like their own dung. I guess you'd be making a point pretty strong, that's for sure. Now, does this apply to Job? Zophar thinks it does, obviously. And he's pretty bummed at Job for the way Job's talking. And so that's the error, of course, in the book, is that the friends of Job aren't understanding the backstory at all. They're not understanding the issue with God and Satan. But sometimes that could be true, right? The idea, you could talk to someone and say, hey, the godless, the pride of the godless reaches the heavens. Yep, that's right. It keeps going up and up and up, our pride. And the heads touches the clouds. That's right. We think we're all that. It says, and those, and they will vanish forever, right? Thrown away like their own dung. Those who knew them will ask, where are they? They will fade like a dream and not be found. They will vanish like a vision in the night. Those who once saw them will see them no more. Their families will never see them again. Their children will beg from the poor. For they must give back their stolen riches. It's interesting. Zophar now picks up on something about the wicked. And that is this idea of thievery, this idea of stealing. And I really like chapter 20. I really like what Zophar is saying. There's a lot of kind of understanding into the ancient world, even about justice. Notice what he says. He says, the children will beg from the poor. This is the wicked's children will beg from the poor, for they must give back their stolen riches. Interesting. Stolen riches. The rich have stolen from the poor. And we'll see how Zophar develops this. It says, though they are young, their bones will lie in the dust. They enjoyed the sweet taste of wickedness. Yeah, wickedness sure does have like a sweet taste to it at times, don't it? And it says, they enjoyed the sweet taste of wickedness, letting it melt under their tongue. They savored it, holding it long in their mouths. Like that candy, just constantly, having it in your mouth, feeling the taste of it, constantly having that before them. But suddenly the food in their bellies turned sour, a poisonous venom in their stomach. They will vomit their wealth and swallow. They will vomit the wealth they swallowed. Ugh. I can't tell you. I've had some stories like this before in my life, for sure, right? But many people die this way too, swallowing their own vomit. You drink too much, and you pass out, you black out. And this is how Zophar is describing the wicked, right? They're going to be destroyed. They're going to destroy themselves. What are areas of my life where I've destroyed myself? I've inflicted my own, in a sense, wrath on myself. Have you ever done that before, where you did something to yourself? Where no one did it to you, but you did it to yourself. You drank yourself into oblivion, like he mentions, right? You drugged yourself, right? You had illicit sexual behaviors and you got some disease, right? You inflicted on yourself, right? You ate that thing, you drank that thing, that you kept doing it and you knew it was really bad for you. And it finally has its toll. Yeah, it's something to think about this morning, too. What are those things that we inflict on ourselves? Oh, man, totally. They will suck the poison of cobras. The viper will kill them. They will never again enjoy streams of olive oil or rivers of milk and honey. They will give back everything they worked for. Their wealth will bring them no joy, for they oppressed the poor and left them destitute. They foreclosed on their homes. Isn't that interesting? The wealthy what? They oppressed the poor and left them destitute. And they foreclosed on their homes. I find this chapter just so fascinating. Wealthy people causing people to foreclose their homes. It sounds like financial exploitation. It sounds like a business that charges so much for a procedure that in order to do it, a person has to sell their home. Someone has to foreclose on their home, right? They can't pay anymore, right, on their home because they've oppressed the poor. They've oppressed the lowly person, the person who's just the average person working. They've made it impossible for them to have the house. And does that happen in the world? Yeah, way too much. And so he sees the injustice even of their day. Now, the reason why I point this out is because nothing's new under the sun. The oppression that was going on back then is what goes on today as well. What is the cost of my financial gain? That's an interesting question. Where do I work? What is the cost of my financial gain? The company I work for. What is the cost of it? What is the negative of the business, what I'm doing? It's an interesting question. And it can be quite disturbing too, right? To think through that. To go, man, is there the wealthy? Is there the big, conglomerates? That the way they do business is really to exploit weakness in people. It's funny, you watch a movie on Wall Street or something like that, and it's kind of common where you have the guys that are making money and they just want to squash the little guy. They just want to get, just crush him, and you kind of go, whoa. But in real life, that's true. And that can be kind of nerve-wracking, to say the least, But I just think it's fascinating that so far is cued in on this. And he says they were always greedy and never satisfied. Nothing remains of all the things they dreamed about. Never satisfied. Keeping going. Am I never satisfied? I need to keep more. Nothing is left after they finish gorging themselves. Therefore, their prosperity will not endure. They just continue to want more and more, and they destroy everything in their path. I'm telling you, it sounds like a Cornel West book or something, It says, in the midst of plenty, they will run into trouble and be overcome by misery. May God give them a belly of trouble. May God rain down his anger upon them. When they try to escape an iron weapon, a bronze-tipped arrow will pierce them. The arrow is pulled from their back, and the arrowhead glistens with blood. The terrors of death are upon them. Their treasures will be thrown into the deepest darkness. A wildfire will devour their goods, consuming all that they have left. The heavens will reveal their guilt, and the earth will testify against them. A flood will sweep away of their house, and God's anger will descend on them in torrents. This is the reward that God gives the wicked. It is the inheritance decreed by God. Okay, Zophar, those are some pretty radical words for Job, right? Is that Job? I guess he's saying Job's pretty darn wicked. Pretty wicked guy. He's lost everything. And this is God's, again, judgment on him. God's going to destroy the wicked, and this is how he does it, man. He just jacks them, That's the idea. You get out of line, and man, God is going to jack you good, And this is how a lot of people think, right? You get out of line, boom. But Job keeps saying, hey, no one's right before God. Man, I need a mediator before the Lord. That's how holy he is. And not only that, but I know my Redeemer lives, right? And I know one day I shall see him with my eyes. And I know my Redeemer's going to be on the earth. And when my flesh is destroyed, man, I'm going to be hanging out with him. I mean, Job has this amazing understanding of the gospel. I mean, it's mind-boggling. So now Job responds to Zophar and says, listen closely to what I am saying. That's one consolation you can give me. Hey, just listen to me, huh? Give me some comfort just by listening. Sometimes we can give comfort to people just by what? Listening. Bear with me and let me speak. After I have spoken, you may resume mocking me. My complaint is with God, not with people. I have good reason to be impatient. Look at me and be stunned. Put your hand over my mouth in shock. When I think about what I am saying, I shudder. My body trembles. Meaning, he says, I can't even believe I'm in this place to talk like this. I can't even believe I'm thinking about God like this. I never thought I would be in this situation. Sometimes we find ourselves in such tough situations where our thoughts of God are different than what we ever thought they would be. And the way we are talking is different than what we ever thought. Circumstances can, and grief through trials in circumstances can very much change the way we talk and think. It's funny when you're healthy and you're going great and you're going out to eat every night and you're doing your thing. Oh yeah, I'm blessed, great, blessed. Yep, great, yep. That kind of thing. And it's just this weird, kind of, and what you're saying really is that everything's going the way I want it to go. That's really what you're saying. But when things ain't going the way you want it to go, and you start talking the way Job talks in his grief, notice his friends. Don't look at Job and go, man, dude, you're such a good guy. You love God so much. Notice that they're offended by the way he now talks to God. It's weird. It's like they can't accept that the grief that Job's going through with all the loss that he had gives him a different perspective, and the way he communicates with God is different. And they see it as a negative. They don't see it as a positive. They don't see it as growth or even the grace of suffering. They see it as it's wrong. It's wrong, Job. You should be talking like we always talked. Like we've always talked. Oh, God is so great. God, great God. Yep. That kind of thing. Whew, we get really stuck in our selfishness. We don't even know we're there. We don't even know. It's so sad. We don't even know we're selfish, right? We don't even know we're stuck in the mud in our own yuck. We think, because everything is in our control, that's what we're thinking. It's all the way we want it. No trials, no tribulations, that we're great. Everything's great, wonderful. I talk to God, it's so great, that kind of thing. And we don't realize that we're probably just stuck in our own control. That's what we're really into. But a lot of us fear that being out of control, how am I going to look at God then? How am I going to talk to God then? He says, I shudder to what I am saying. I shudder, my body trembles. That much grief, that much trial. Why do the wicked prosper, growing old and powerful? They live to see children grow up and settle down. Notice Zophar talks about wicked dying young and dying in their prime. And Zophar, that's what God's going to give them. And Job says, well, why do the wicked people live forever? Or live and, grow old? Job responds by saying, well, no, it's not always the case so far. Sometimes people live old and they're still wicked. They live to see their children grow up and settle down, and they enjoy their grandchildren. Their homes are safe from every fear. It's so opposite of what Zophar was just talking about, right? It's just hilarious. And it says, their homes are safe from every fear, and God does not punish them. Their bulls never fail to breed. Their cows bear calves and never miscarry. They let their children frisk about like lambs. Their little ones skip and dance. Everything seems what? Great. See, Zophar is under the impression that when everything seems great and everything's in your control and everything's going awesome, and then God's on your side, then you know what? It must be God. And Job says, no. The wicked can live long too. The wicked can have great grandchildren. Everything goes great in their life. It doesn't mean that God's with them. And this is a mind blower to us. It really is. And the relationship between Job's friends and him is really interesting, because I think we fall into the same trap over and over and over and over. Where when someone is sad or grieving, melancholy, we tend to go, what's wrong? What's wrong, brother? Oh, don't say that. No, oh no. We tend to think something's bad with them and their maybe walk with God, or instead of understanding that God has them going through this moment and there's nothing we can do but maybe listen, have compassion and some empathy, and maybe give them a hug. But instead we want to counsel. We want to be the counselors. Oh, because we're such good counselors, aren't we? Yeah, very interesting. It says, verse 12, they sing with their tambourines and harp, they celebrate to the sound of the flute, and they spend their days in prosperity. They go down to the grave in peace, and yet they say to God, go away. We want no part of you and your ways. Does this sound like today? Yeah, every generation has it, all the way back to Job's day. Nothing new under the sun. People still live their life. They can live long, they can have great houses and great families, and they live long and they die, and they just don't want God in the slightest. Who is the Almighty, and why should we obey Him? What good is it? What good will it do us to pray? Exactly what people say today. Isn't this amazing? So long ago in the Bible. All the things that we say. Well, it doesn't help us to pray. I've prayed. It doesn't help, bro. God doesn't help me when I'm praying. They think their prosperity is of their own doing. But I have nothing to do with that kind of thinking. But I will have nothing to do with that kind of thinking. So, you see Job kind of saying, hey, they think their prosperity is their doing, but I have nothing to do with that kind of thinking. I don't want to go that direction. I don't want to be thinking that way. It can really bum us out if I think too much about the wicked and their prosperity. Right? It can really get to our hearts. And sometimes that's what the news does, is it brings about in your mind and in your heart, it grieves you because you see the prosperous acting bad and getting away with things, and you get frustrated. Yet the light of the wicked never seems to be extinguished. Do they ever have trouble? Does God distribute sorrows to them in anger? Are they driven before the wind like straw? Are they carried away by the storm like chaff? Not at all. Well, you say, at least God will punish their children, but I say he should punish the ones who sin, so that they understand his judgment. Let them see their destruction with their own eyes. Let them drink deeply of the anger of the Almighty, for they will not care what happens to their family after they are dead. But who can teach a lesson to God, since he judges even the most powerful? But who can teach God what to do with his justice? One person dies in prosperity, completely comfortable and secure. The picture of good health, vigorous and fit. Another person dies in bitter poverty, never having tasted the good life. But both are buried in the same dust, both eaten by the same maggots. And both are buried in the same dust, right? Both eaten by the same worms. It sounds very Ecclesiastes-like, the book we just got done. Right? The idea that very like, hey, God will judge as God sees fit. Some people live long and some people don't. And some people live this way and they seem to prosper. Some people live a whole life and they're just in the tunnel of trial. And that tunnel of trial seems to be long and long and longer than the other person. But both are going to end up dead. Look, I know what you're thinking. I know the schemes you plot against me. I know you guys are thinking I'm going crazy. I know you guys are thinking like, hey, why are you talking this way about God? Why are you saying God should judge in this way or God should judge that way? Why are you talking about the Almighty like this? It says, look, I know what you're thinking. It says, you will tell me of rich and wicked people whose houses have vanished because of their sins. But ask those who have been around, and they will tell you the truth. Evil people are spared in times of calamity and are allowed to escape disaster. Job just lays it on the line. Come on, guys. You might think your theology is all sound and tight. You might think your understanding of God and the universe and how things work on the planet are all based on these principles that are sure things. You reap what you sow, you cause and effect. This is how it works. You do this, this is what happens. But if you look around and you ask around, this ain't the case. It ain't so cut and dry like that. Man, Job's very observant. And he says, evil people are spared of their calamity, right? And they do escape danger. No one criticizes them openly or pays them back for what they have done. When they are carried to the grave, an honor guard keeps watch at their tomb. Those that even are wicked, even in their death, they're honored as honorable people. Does this happen in our world? Absolutely, all the time. A great funeral procession goes to the cemetery. Many pay their respects as the bodies laid to rest, and the earth gives sweet response. How can your empty cliches comfort me? All your explanations are lies. They're just not true. Sometimes we say things in the Christian life and we think things that just aren't the case. And that is deeply troubling to your life and my life. Because we can look at our life and we can go, how many times I've just said the Christian cliche, right? Instead of really being compassionate on a soul. Listen to a person, comfort them in their trial, hugged them, held their hand, cried with them. The New Testament says mourn with those who mourn, right? To have compassion on people, to feel compassion. It's amazing that Jesus wept when he saw the death of his friend. One a beautiful New Testament passage. I think it's John 11, 10 or 11. But Jesus weeps, Jesus cries also when he rides into Jerusalem. I mean, the compassion of the Lord. And do I have that compassion? Or is my Christian attitude and behavior just a cliche? Just a bunch of cliches. I love that my relationships with people in the church are genuine, meaning they are real. We do talk about real things, real struggles, real trials, real temptations. It's not just bless the Lord, oh my soul. Yeah, you blessed, I'm blessed. Hey, blessed, blessing, prospering, great. Oh, don't negative confess. Yeah, because you reap what you sow, that kind of thing. And there's this facade. There's this outward whitewash tomb, right? It looks great on the outside, but inside, Jesus says it's rotting. Man, intense. So Job 20 and 21, you see them together. And when you read the, like one of Job's friends, and you read Job together, you really start seeing the flow. Zophar says one thing, Job says, not the case, bro. Very cool. A lot of things to think about, certainly in this devotion. One of those things of, God, give me an honest heart before you. Oh, not only before you, but give me an honest heart with my brothers and sisters in the Lord too. And it's okay, the frustrations that we feel on the planet, it's okay to share those things, as Job does. Because we all go through trials and sufferings and grieving. And what comes out of our mouth sometimes during those times can be challenging for people to hear. But if we do hear them and we're the recipients, let's just have good ears, right? And not try to fix everything through some great theological idea. So very cool. And we will catch you later. I hope you guys enjoy this. And Laura, thanks for joining. Michelle, thanks for joining. And I hope you guys, it's a little early, but I hope you guys got your coffee, and I hope you've been able to listen to the devotion and enjoy it. I've already been on a run this morning. It was awesome, man. It was beautiful out there. So you guys take care. We'll see you maybe at church. Have a great weekend, okay? Bye-bye.